Welcome in to another episode of Betting the Pitch, coming to you live from the Mushroom Kingdom. I am your host, the real underscore G Warner, or the Northern Italian Luigi. If you're not watching me live, then you probably have no idea what's going on here, but I am wearing a Luigi costume because it's Halloween and why not try to enjoy the festivities? You only live once, all that sort of stuff. Today, on this episode, we're going to go through Champions League, the last match day. I can already see it's wrong in the title. Great. But we're going match day 6 of the Champions League. Here, we're going to figure out who's getting eliminated, who's already eliminated, Barca. Plenty of other things. We're going to give out a best bet for each of the days, Tuesday and Wednesday, and an ultimate best bet end of show. Might even stick around and check out some futures if they're available. Not sure what there is because I'm always disappointed there's not that good of selection, unfortunately. All lines quoted in this podcast are courtesy of betonline.ag. It's my favorite place to get my bets down early and with reduced juice offered on almost every game you want to bet right up until game time. Use a promo code that will be found in the description below this podcast. And you can fund your account, get a bonus. I get a little piece from BetOnline, not from you. Follow that in there, get some extra money, and we'll go home happy and win some money together. Now for the winning money part. We're going to start on Tuesday with the first match that we got, and that is Leverkusen hosting Bruges. And currently, I mean, what a crazy situation. This group has been pretty much backwards this whole time. Crazy finish also in the Leverkusen Atleti match. Atleti should still be alive, but can't finish a penalty that they didn't deserve after the final whistle was already blown. Anyway, Bruges currently on top of the group on 10 points right now. Took their first loss, first blemish of all the Champions League, which is wild because they're supposed to come in last in this group. I have a little bit of an Ajax feeling because I feel like this is just a weak group in general. So I wouldn't fall in love with Bruges start, though they've been a covering machine, I think covering all 4 of their matches until this last one. So I'm 4-1 against the spread against them. I've been picking them since the beginning, and it's been a really nice ride. Unfortunately, it got really ugly. A missed penalty really kind of sent things over the edge if they're already behind in their last match. But anyway, the Group B lines up like this. Bruges on 10 points, Porto on 9, Atletico Madrid on 5, and Leverkusen on 4. So the only real things that are in play here are group winner, which is important because you'll face a second place team not from your country in the first knockout round, and then third place between Atleti and Leverkusen because Porto and Bruges have already moved on. Not sure anyone had that happening. Hilarious, but also love chaos and love when managers that I like to fade, like Diego Simeone, crash and burn. Seems like a nice guy, and I think in the past I would have liked to bet Atleti, but they're a favorite all the time, and they haven't really deserved to be for a long time now. Anywho, so back to this matchup. Leverkusen currently a 1-goal favorite to Bruges, which to me speaks to Bruges not getting a lot of respect really this entire competition, despite constantly punching the market in its face. And I guess you could talk about, Bruges they get a point, they're surviving, but they still have to worry about Porto winning. So this is a big match for Bruges. I think there's a little concern from my standpoint. I mean, they're happy to be through, but that's been clinched, so that's not a thing they need to worry about here. I do worry though if Porto are ahead of Atleti, and we'll get to that matchup next. It's in the only matches in the early window. If Porto are ahead, then Bruges probably go all out to win this matchup because they know that a draw won't be good enough. And that does make me a little bit concerned that they are way too open in the back as they're trying to win the group and really going all out. What that would require, obviously, is Porto winning at home, them being aware of the score, which I think they will be, and the manager will probably make them very aware, especially if he puts a striker on, takes out a center back type thing. But with this full goal of insurance right now, Leverkusen are 1-goal favorite, a little more juice on Bruges as we speak, or as I speak. I don't know that that's enough to scare me because if Bruges are down by 1 goal, they're still going for it. They're not exactly going to just say, okay, we're going through, we're good here. So I imagine they're still trying their best to equalize. I don't like teams that just basically throw everything forward late, especially when they're getting more than a goal because they're clearly an inferior side in this situation on the road. Not great. But ultimately, even if they're drawing and they need to push forward to win, maybe they lose by a single goal and you still get your money back because that +1, that full goal of insurance. So Leverkusen, on the other hand, on 4 points, they need to get the tiebreakers in this are head to heads. And I want to say that Leverkusen, because they lost that first match against Bruges, and then the 2 matches they played in a row were against Porto. So it looks like they beat Atleti in that first matchup. So that's good. That's a big step for the tiebreaker. But a draw is not going to be good enough because then there'll be, I guess, a draw. Huh. A draw could be good enough if Atleti get nothing from this matchup, but they're probably not expecting that. So Leverkusen, I mean, they're an offensive team that try to play and go all out. At least they did under Sewani, Gerardo, their first manager of the season. Xavi Alonso seems to play a little bit more pragmatic with a 4-2-3-1. He uses the wings, but like every manager so far for Leverkusen has. Peter Bosch is doing that. Siouane is doing it. So, I mean, that's not different. Jeremy Frimpong has been so good this year for a team that really has had nothing at the striker position. That's what's put them in this predicament where they're fighting for a Europa League berth, which is very disappointing considering how high up the table they finished in the German Bundesliga last season. But I don't really trust Leverkusen to win by more than a goal. So that +1, I mean, I could see myself just backing Bruges even blindly. And if you go 4-2 in the group stage, that's still very profitable. Anyone would kill to hit 67% in any sport if you're a sports bettor. But I don't think that's the only reason I want to play Bruges here. I feel like their defense is underrated, and that's a really big number for Leverkusen who need to cover. And unfortunately, the amount of lopsided victory doesn't really matter if Atleti win on the road at Porto. So I like Bruges a lot getting that full goal of insurance. Next, we'll go to that next matchup, and that's Porto hosting Atletico Madrid. Porto certainly want to win the group, and then that would essentially give them a much easier road to the quarterfinals from the round of 16. Atleti, on the other hand, they need to hold. I mean, a draw means that Leverkusen has to win, though they're favored, so they should expect that to happen. Atleti, I'm not really sure what Atleti are going to do here because the Europa League is a slap in the face to them. That's the best they can do here. I would think crashing out of I mean, it depends on how much that money matters because I think it does in Europa League, even though it's seen as a second competition, which is better now with the third one, the Europa Conference League coming up. But I think they're going to play for this one because Atleti haven't really been playing well. They have a very deep squad. They're still trying to figure out who their best side is, I think, for competing in the Champions League. I mean, losing to Cadiz this weekend it wasn't really them not putting out a performance, but I do think that they were a little bit crestfallen from crashing out of the Champions League midweek, especially with a late penalty miss. But Porto currently are a quarter goal favorite at home. All the juices on Atleti on the road. Both teams are going for this one. Both want to win because that puts them in a really good position to either hold on to Europa League place or for Porto to jump Bruges. Porto and Bruges did split their meetings and both were very lopsided. So Porto won 4-0 in that last matchup and then lost the first one 4-0. Both road teams winning 4-0. Crazy. So this is going to be a tough one in terms of tiebreakers. I mean, they split on goal differential, on points earned, on goals scored in their head-to-head matchups. Goal differential currently leans towards Porto. So if Porto win and Bruges do not, or I mean that's the only way they can do it, then pretty much I think Porto will be the group winner. So they just really need to win. Line currently asks them to win. It's a little bit of a surprise to me based on seeing Porto favored to Atleti, but you can certainly question the motivation and really what Atleti are going for here. So this was the first matchup and I feel like it was a crazy finish. With 3 goals in stoppage time. If you had under, then this one was even worse of a beat than what I took on Porto. Taremi, of course, got sent off because he always does whenever I bet Porto, unfortunately. But so Atleti, I wanted to check now to see what that line was the last time they played, which I'm going to do that live while we're on here. Apologies for all of that. But, I feel like it's worth, I think, talking about at least a little bit. So Porto, I had thought were going to be a half a goal underdog the last time. They were a 3/4 goal underdog, dropped to a half. So some people got a little bit of a push if you had that 3/4 of a goal underdog, but it was very juiced. So pretty much overs and Porto backers like myself in that one took a really tough one, especially after equalizing a stoppage time goal with a goal of their own and then surrendering a Griezmann goal with 11th minute of stoppage time. I mean, just like game should never go that long, and of course that's how it goes. But regardless, back to the topic at hand. Atleti, I feel like are a better team than Porto, is certainly in the marketplace. I mean, I was very happy to have Porto in that matchup, and nothing happened for 90 minutes and change. But I guess I lean to Atleti getting that quarter. I do want to see what their lineup looks like because I think that'll give a good indication of what they're going for here, which is not really that easy to tell right now. But anyway, so I like Bruges in that first one. So I guess to summarize this window, +1. I like Atleti a little bit, but I'm not sure I'm that comfortable with it as we speak. Now moving to the I guess the main course, if those were the appetizers, where a ton of matches all kick off at the same time, 3 p.m. Central Time here in Dallas, Texas. Liverpool currently a half a goal favorite to Napoli, with most of the juice on Liverpool, or a little bit more of the juice, I'll put it that way. Napoli on 15 points have won every match. I think it probably matters to them to sweep this entire Champions League group, but doesn't matter more than keeping guys healthy. Probably not. Napoli did win this matchup 4-1, I believe, in the first meeting. Should have probably been a lot worse, but that was the score, and still is a pretty big gap between these teams. If Liverpool win, they need to then outdo that by, I think, winning essentially 5-2 would get them, if they're tied on everything, because then they would win a goal scored tiebreaker. But 3-0 or 3-0 probably won't do it. 4-0 would. So this needs to be a very lopsided victory for Liverpool. They're currently half a goal favorite. I think this came down from 3/4 earlier. And I think it should, because Liverpool have looked like dog shit. I'm sorry to curse, apologies, but that's what they've looked like. And Napoli, I mean, killed them the first time they played. I backed Napoli in that one. I took Napoli to advance in this group. That looked like the easiest bet. I wish I took them to win the group, unfortunately. But anyway, they're here, they're through. It was plus money, so I'll take it. But Napoli are the better side. Liverpool are going to have a good crowd behind them at Anfield, I guess, but that has been limiting. I mean, it hasn't been limiting to road teams like Nottingham Forest, and then watching Leeds go in there and beat them too this weekend. I don't know how you're backing Liverpool laying any sort of number to a team that's way better than them, unless Napoli are just resting their players. But I don't think they're going to do that, because there's a chance that they could lose the number 1 seed in this group. Napoli probably are more focused on Serie A title rather than Champions League, but I think they want to put themselves in the best position possible, and we see a good lineup here from Liverpool. From Napoli. So I want to make sure Kvaratskhelia and also Osimhen are in there, because they're going to run at what looks like an aged Liverpool back line, or just a team that doesn't defend, because Trent Alexander-Arnold is likely to play in there. But I honestly don't know. Like, Klopp might be just focused on trying to get his team healthy here and just conceding that he has to win 4-0 to take the prize. Probably not going to concede that. Doesn't seem like that type of guy. But Napoli getting half of a goal is strongly on my list. Next, we have Rangers and Ajax. Currently, Rangers getting half of a goal, bottom of the table on 0 points, have scored 1 goal in this competition, a -18 goal differential, just getting smashed everywhere they go. Ajax probably very disappointed in how this has gone so far, but they did smash Rangers the first time they played. I mean, I don't know how you're backing Rangers here. I thought they would have a really strong home field advantage, home pitch advantage in this tournament. It has not mattered at all. And I don't think I really want to talk about it anymore, because these two teams play in lower leagues. Bayern Munich then host Inter Milan. Currently, Bayern a 1.25 goal favorite. Bayern have won all their matches, have clinched the group. Inter cannot improve their position. All they can really do is get a good result, and I don't really think they have any reason to go for that. I do like them getting more than a goal, though, with a counterattacking side that have played that way ever since Conte got in, maybe even longer than that. But Simone Inzaghi has kind of done the same thing. And Bayern, though, at home are really tough to fade. They're probably going to play a stronger lineup than you'd expect, because that seems to be what they do even when they are clinched. I don't know about Inter, what they're going to do here with Lukaku and getting him, trying to get more run, get him more in the team. I feel like that might be a good position for him to start. And he's a problem for anybody unless he's wearing Chelsea blue. I don't know. Big number because Bayern could be rotating themselves, but this is one you need to look at lineups for. Over unders 3.5. They're expecting a lot of goals in this one, and that makes that 1.25 on Inter seem even less. Victoria Pilsen then hosting Barcelona. Currently Pilsen a 1.5 goal underdog at home. They're on 0 points. They cannot catch Barcelona on 4. Barca has been playing really well in La Liga, not well in Champions League. Didn't play well in La Liga this weekend, but still stole a victory from the jaws of draw, not defeat, because they don't have overtime in the sport. But ultimately, not much for me to do with, and I'm not going to waste anyone's time. Next, we'll go Marseille-Tottenham for the last couple matches that are going to decide who's going through. And this is the most competitive group I think that we can talk about on Tuesday. Marseille, Tottenham, and then also Sporting Lisboa and Eintracht Frankfurt. Currently, Tottenham are leading on 8 points, Sporting on 7, Eintracht Frankfurt on 7, and Marseille on 6. So anyone can win this group, which is awesome. I mean, that's exactly what we want going into all this. We'll probably be first on my television when I get home tomorrow from the office. Marseille currently a quarter goal underdog at home with all the juice to Tottenham. Marseille with a big 2-0 lead, choked that up. Maybe legs kind of ran out this weekend. They've been really struggling to put together good performances, both in Champions League and League. They usually have one good one and one not good one. They did win in Champions League last week, which was huge for them to even have a chance to move on. And this group is completely up in the air. The first time they played Marseille, I thought were a better team than Tottenham, though I've had really tough time with Tottenham this year. Sometimes they smash me and I'll give them credit for it. But they've covered a lot of matches that they really haven't deserved. I really dislike a team that gives away the ball and doesn't have possession that lays big numbers. Here, only a quarter is not a lot, but I think it speaks to the faith that the community has right now, or lack thereof, in Tottenham Hotspur. Marseille are definitely an inferior team to Tottenham. They have nowhere near the money, though they did add quite a bit for their Champions League competition this season. They are very talented in Ligue 1, and they did a lot to kind of Igor Tudor, their new manager, started at the beginning of the season. He almost got away with rotating his best players. I mean, Harit, top like central attacking midfielder, was on the bench. Same with Alexis Sanchez, and even some more in other places as well. I think only really Veretout played, and they got up 2-0, but surrendered that. Really got maybe you could even argue we're fortunate not to lose a match, that they were up 2-0 on the road early. Tottenham, on the other hand, came storming back from 2-0 down on the road at Bournemouth, just completely crushed me. 2 goals off of corner kicks, because they had 19 chances. So I guess 2 out of 19 is probably not a good success rate, but better than 10%. And shame on Bournemouth. Really makes me think that their manager's not going to stick around. He's a caretaker anyway, got hot for a little bit, and just really had some bad luck lately. But anyway, this is a Champions League show. So lean to Marseille getting a quarter of a goal at home. I wonder about their crowd setup, because they seem to love getting banned from having crowds. And if they don't, that's a big problem. If they have them at Le Orange Velodrome, that's very important. Will potentially stir up Tottenham quite a bit. I like that they're also bottom of the group and really have to fight for this one. Tottenham, if they get a draw, then they can't get passed by Sporting and Eintracht. Only one of them can pass them. So a draw gets Tottenham through, because Marseille won't be able to catch them. And that's, I mean, something that Conte can hold on to, or maybe, I mean, they're going to be sitting back. The Spurs are in a counterattacking type of style. So maybe that doesn't affect how they play too much, but I do think holding on for a draw late as a road favorite does make me like that home dog even more. And that's certainly the way I lean right now. Over unders 2.5. I just don't know. I feel like there could be goals in this matchup, despite Tottenham's ideal situation of trying to win every match 1-0. The other matchup in this one is Sporting and Eintracht Frankfurt, both on 7 points. I'm going to check their matchup, because that actually does matter for tie-breaking stuff for us to talk about. So Sporting won 3-0 at Eintracht Frankfurt match day 1. That's huge because that's a big, big number for Eintracht Frankfurt to overcome. So, I mean, but they're just going to have to win because a draw means Sporting are still ahead, which tells me that Eintracht Frankfurt are going to go for it a lot more on the road based on that setup. I don't think that they'd be too embarrassed by a Europa League run because they won it last year to get into this competition. But I think they're clearly trying to go through to the knockout round of Champions League. First time I think they've been there. Current number is Sporting a quarter goal favorite at home, which does speak to the fact that Eintracht Frankfurt have to push forward. Now, I like that. They need to win as an underdog. That's meaningful, but I also feel like 0-0, 1-1, 2-2, whatever late in the matchup, Eintracht Frankfurt are throwing everything forward, including the goalkeeper. And I've had some really bad luck with empty net goals, which you expect those in hockey, but not so much in this sport. That's a concern if you're backing Eintracht Frankfurt. A concern for Sporting Lisboa is their goalkeeping position in general. They have a really 35-year-old who should be a veteran who plays like a 12-year-old. Came over from Atletico Madrid, I believe, and then his backup came in when he was sent off in the first matchup against Marseille, and then ultimately came on and just completely whiffed a corner kick, and Marseille took from trailing 1-0 like the second minute to then taking a big lead and playing against 10 men, smashed them. So I got some big concerns in Sporting, especially as a favorite. I feel like they are, and a lot of the Portuguese league teams are ones that I want to back when they're an underdog. But as a favorite, I don't really like that too much. I think I lean to Eintracht Frankfurt, though I am definitely concerned about that late situation with sending everyone forward if Eintracht Frankfurt don't have a win in hand. Because ultimately they lose a tiebreaker with Sporting and they'll be tied with Tottenham, and that tiebreaker if they draw and Tottenham loses, but then Marseille would jump them as well. So there's no real situation where that works, unfortunately. So I'm gonna say, I guess I'll recap Tuesday now just to make sure everyone's with me. Seems like the mic's working, so hopefully don't have to re-record this as I did the Champions League earlier. So lean to Bruges +1. I also like Atletico Madrid getting a quarter, but it's very juiced, and I need to see lineups to kind of guess intentions, which is another concern. Napoli, I like getting a half of a goal from Liverpool, but I want to see who they play. I expect both will play their best, but I guess we'll see because there is a fixture overload coming, and both are, I mean, Napoli at least are trying to win a Scudetto. I don't know what Liverpool really are going for at this point. Rangers, no thank you. Inter, definitely not good enough to be a best bet for me right now. No thanks on Pilsen. I do like Marseille getting a quarter of a goal at home, but I need to check that they have a crowd. And Eintracht Frankfurt, I don't like that nightmare scenario at the end. So it's Napoli getting a half of a goal or Bruges getting a full goal as my interest here. And I think Bruges has something to play for, so they're going to play their best. And I'll take that full goal of insurance. I'll take Bruges +1 as my best bet for Tuesday. Now we'll move to Wednesday, go through the same way, same status, same chatter, all that sort of stuff. And we'll start with Shakhtar Donetsk hosting RB Leipzig, or quote unquote, air quotes, hosting, because they're playing in Poland. The Russia-Ukraine war is still going on. Thanks a lot, Vladimir Putin. You are a dick. But anyway, without throwing politics aside, currently in that group, Real Madrid on 10 points, Leipzig on 9, Shakhtar Donetsk on 6, and Celtic on 2. Shakhtar Donetsk smashed RB Leipzig the first time they played. So this is in play for, if Shakhtar can win here, they can leapfrog RB Leipzig and take a berth in the Champions League playing no matches at home. That would be incredible. What a story that would be. It's a long shot, though. They have to win. And they're currently a 3/4 goal underdog. Leipzig, a 3/4 goal favorite on the road, which is a tough thing for them because they've not been good on the road for a long time now. They got a big win against a sort of rotate. I mean, there's Real Madrid. It was a big win. Led 1-0, got up 2-0. Real Madrid got one back, so 2-1, and then added one on for a 3-1 lead, and then ended up conceding. So it was back and forth match for sure. But Leipzig did seem like the better team. The marketplace moved them from like a quarter goal underdog to a quarter goal favorite, which is quite a move, and one that made me say, okay, I'm backing Real Madrid, even without Karim Benzema and without some important players. because I trust them far more than I trust RB Leipzig. Didn't work out, unfortunately, but I think it was a big win for Leipzig, and I think it makes them overvalued. They did play well this weekend. Still not really a believer, especially in Leipzig when they're not playing at home. I went to their stadium for the German national team, so I guess it's a different scenario. But it sounds like it's not the most intimidating place. It was actually said this weekend. But they had a great week last week, and that also makes me think that they probably won't have as good of a week this week. What I am concerned about is Shakhtar Donetsk and their kind of strategy here, because they need to win to go through. They have clinched Europa League, so there's nothing for them to lose here. I guess besides their pride and all that sort of stuff, but I don't think that matters. And I think Ukraine, especially any Ukrainian players, it seems to be most of them are Ukrainian nationals, that they should be pretty good in the pride, strength category, fight area. Really love what I see from Mudryk, and unfortunately, they should have won their match with Celtic in the last match, but they missed a tap in just really sad fashion. I'm glad they hung on for the cover for me, but they deserve to be on 8 points here. And literally, I mean, I guess they still would need a win to pass Leipzig, but so maybe that doesn't matter. But a win here and they do pass them. Whereas Leipzig on the road, I don't really see them being a conservative style, or I don't see them take one on. Their manager, Marco Olsa, he played a counterattacking way with Borussia Mönchengladbach and got them through the Champions League in the group of death, if I remember correctly, with Inter and others. Can't remember exactly who else was in that one, but got them through the Champions League. And then things went sort of bad as he ended up taking on the Dortmund job the next year, or I guess that same season. But I just don't, I haven't seen Leipzig as a counterattacking side in a long time. They want to press you, they want to be in your face, they're up the pitch. And I think that's going to leave a lot of space for Shakhtar to use their speed, their pace. They don't have a lot of accomplished players that you've heard of, but Mudryk seems like one of the best players that is going to go somewhere big. I thought he was rumored to go to Sevilla, but I guess that didn't go through. And I love Shakhtar Donetsk in space. I think showing that they've already won at Leipzig in dominant fashion also makes them valuable here, because they'll have that confidence. They'll know they can do it. And I wonder if that also makes Leipzig have a little bit concerned, because they're trying to protect what they have. Keep what you hold or keep what you have. And that's not a great situation, especially as a pretty big favorite in a relatively neutral site, but potentially leaning towards Shakhtar if you don't have a dog in the fight. And a single goal loss, you only lose half a bet. So I feel like that's worth a stab, if you will. And of course, my computer of all types are dying in battery. So I'm going to plug these in while we're doing it, but I'll read this one first. Real Madrid are a 2-goal favorite on 10 points, could be caught by Leipzig. So they did not look very good this weekend against Girona in La Liga, but ultimately that's something you say a lot about Real Madrid, and they still win matches. They do have something to play for here, though. They had that game in hand with Leipzig. They could have ended this group stage and made sure they were the 1 seed, but they did not take advantage of that. Partly because they didn't want to risk anybody, and I sort of get it, because if they gotten a draw, they would have been perfectly set, I think. Yeah, because they would have been on 11 points and Leipzig would have only been on 7, so they would have been all set and clinched. But I guess definitely not questioning Carlo Ancelotti. He knows what he's doing. So in this situation, Real Madrid a 2-goal favorite. I felt like in the first matchup at Celtic was getting a lot of respect. Whether it was deserved, I'm not sure. It was tight for a while, but they ended up losing pretty handily. I think it was 3-0 result. I have no interest in backing Celtic, and Real Madrid is a 2-goal favorite. Will never likely make my card. So I'm going to skip on and go past that to the Smorgasburg at 3 p.m. local time here in Dallas. And that's AC Milan starting as a 1-goal favorite to Red Bull Salzburg. And when I look at that lineup, so I find their group setting. Okay, so that's Group E. Currently, Chelsea on 10 points, Milan on 7, Salzburg on 6, Dinamo Zagreb on 4. So anyone can really get through, depending on the tiebreakers, permutations, and such. Chelsea have clinched, though. They cannot get passed or overtaken. But these two are fighting on 7 and on 6 points, so that's a big deal. Salzburg go in this. They're going to be as aggressive as they can on the front foot. That's how they play. Milan weren't looking great this weekend, I gotta say. And so they're playing and kind of their heads are all over the place for two competitions. They're in the driver's seat because a draw will get them through. Dinamo Zagreb will not be able to catch them even on a victory, second victory against Chelsea. But the number is requiring a 1-goal victory from Milan. I do like the idea that if they're drawing late, that they're defending Red Bull Salzburg or storming the gates, and you have that 1 goal in your pocket, that if something goes wrong and Milan go down the other way and score a goal, you walk out of there with a push, free movie. Or they are celebrating on their knees. Woohoo, we made it through in the 95th minute as a whistle is blown, and they draw and you win a full bet. So that is pretty tempting to me on Salzburg. I do think this match could get ugly, though, unfortunately, if you back the underdog, because Salzburg are a front-footed team that don't know how to defend. They're a young team. They're going to all push forward. But I feel like they've been better in this competition than you would have expected. I mean, we're challenging Bayern Munchen as well last year, had a really good first leg result, if I remember correctly, and then things did not go very well in the second. But Milan aren't that team really. They're not those dudes. They are they have a lot of pace, they have a lot of talent, but and more certainly than Salzburg, but they kind of winning the Scudetto last year kind of felt like it was very, very fortunate, and a lot of Inter lost it rather than Milan won it. Credit them because they stayed along. They haven't done very well in this competition. Maybe you look at that, just Chelsea smashing their faces in, but giving a full goal in that scenario I just spoke about. I mean, Salzburg, if they're down early, it's tough because they're going to be wide open. But they're still, I mean, that's what you would want ultimately, rather than sitting and trying to hang around for a while. You want someone aggressive if they're going to be losing. Certainly, you don't want 1-0 to turn into 2-0 because they're being too reckless. But that's, I think, the case for avoiding Salzburg. But I do like that scenario where they're fighting, trying to knock down the door late, escape. AC Milan escapes with the draw, and you still have that like empty net goal safety net mechanism on that +1. So I like Salzburg there. Chelsea hosting Dinamo Zagreb, giving a goal and a half. And this is a place or a chance for them to get some revenge. Chelsea should have the tiebreaker with Milan directly. Milan can only tie them, and they lost to them in both of their matches. So 3-0 and 2-0. So Chelsea really have nothing to play for here. And that's great, I gotta say, for them. But makes me think that Dinamo Zagreb might have a little bit more, because if they can win this matchup in Chelsea, big ask at Stamford Bridge. But if they get 3 points, they will cross and get past Salzburg if they lose, and could find their way into the Europa League knockout stages, which would be huge. Do I expect that to happen? I'm not sure. Does that make me like 1.5 more? It does, because they have their sights on something. They should be playing their best, because I'm sure the money in the Europa League is far better than what you can find in the Croatian league from winning that one. But certainly this deck looks a little bit stacked against them, and certainly based on the difference in teams. But we might see a really weak Chelsea lineup here. They got smashed this weekend by Brighton. I'm sure they're going to be pretty pissed off, and a lot of people are going to be playing for spots, quote unquote. But Graham Potter, I mean, he's never been a guy that's going to blow you out. He's going to possess the ball a lot. Maybe with these better players and more accomplished ones, he might score more with Chelsea, but they're still not a team that's ever been trusted to score a ton of goals. So I lean to Dinamo Zagreb getting that goal and a half. I do really worry if they get down early, if they're wide open and they get smashed by Chelsea, but still takes Chelsea finishing a bunch of chances. And I don't really know that I feel confident in a lot of them finishing them, besides Aubameyang, who doesn't seem to be playing as much as I would expect. Next, we'll move to FC Copenhagen and Borussia Dortmund. And that is a group of Man City, which is Group G. Great letter, if I don't say so myself, despite being Luigi today. Copenhagen are a 3/4 goal underdog at home. They have still not scored a goal in this whole competition, so they're really hard to back. The group goes as follows: Man City 11, Dortmund 8, Sevilla 5, Copenhagen on 2. So Copenhagen could catch Sevilla, but they lose a tiebreaker, so they can't. Sevilla in their matches with Dortmund have drawn 1-1 and lost 4-1. So that's not great for Sevilla's chances either. So I don't think that Sevilla can get the same points as Dortmund, but they cannot go through. So both Man City and Dortmund are through. Man City with they drew and they beat Dortmund. So nothing really matters in this one here. Copenhagen can't pass Sevilla. Sevilla can't pass Dortmund. Dortmund can't pass City. So this is all pretty locked in, and there's some big questions about what these lineups are going to look like. Um, Probably doesn't have to have a lot. Backups if you got them. If you're trying to get your team playing better, I mean, Sevilla with a tough loss to Rayo Vallecano at home this weekend. Historic win apparently for Rayo, but ultimately those teams are very similar. Copenhagen can't score. Dortmund, we know they can, even if they're the one thing we know they can do is score. I think their defense is pretty pregnable, if you will, on the opposite the Mike Tyson scale. Over unders 2 3/4. I'm not interested in backing it over on a team that can't score. So I don't really know what to do that Copenhagen match. So I'll skip to Man City and Sevilla. Man City are a 2-goal favorite. All the juice on Sevilla. But I don't really like there's no reason for Sevilla to risk anybody that matters. Like, they're certainly trying to get a better team together. And it seems like Champions League people want to play that with a bigger bonuses there or something like that individually. I'm not sure. But I don't really see a reason that Sevilla are going to dig in. They might just be trying stuff in this matchup, honestly, even if they do put their best players out there. Man City, we know they've got a ton of depth, maybe less this year than they have in the past, but they can smash teams. And I just don't think there's a lot for me to talk about or really get into there. So last but not least, we'll take a look at Group H. PSG on 11 points, Benfica also on 11, Juventus on 3, and Maccabi Haifa on 3. Those are not, I mean, it's a big split, but ultimately a big battle for Europa League spot between Juventus and Maccabi Haifa. Hilarious. Sorry to one of my good friends who's a huge Juve fan. Sorry, Francis, it sucks. But then PSG and Benfica, I mean, what a battle. I guess I might as well go through and see. So Juve, they lost to Maccabi Haifa 2-0, but won 3-1 at home. So they get the tiebreaker there. That's important. But ultimately, I mean, they're embarrassed. And unfortunately, Juve have to host PSG. Currently, Juve a 3/4 goal underdog at home. All the juice on PSG on the road. Maybe this climbs to a full goal. I think this was a goal and a quarter the first time they played, which Juve fell behind 2-0, but covered with a late goal. PSG and Benfica, I mean, they drew both times they played. So goal differential leans to PSG at the moment. I guess that will probably be the next tiebreaker. So PSG is in good position. But if they don't win at Juve, it's possible they have to face a number 1 seed, and it's not a French one. So they'll probably most likely get an English team, and that's a tough draw for PSG. So this matters. I expect them to play the best they can. They had a wild game this weekend with Troyes, very surprising, but hung on for dear life and really looked like they were not going to get 3 points. They did. Juve with a good win, put a ton of pressure on Lecce the whole time. Market loved Lecce, but it wasn't good enough. Lecce hit the post late, but didn't really do much offensively. And I think it's what we're going to expect from Juve in this matchup. They're dealing with so many injuries, though. It's really hard to even think about backing them. Certainly, if Maccabi Haifa get a draw and Juve lose, they could crash out of Champions League, and that would be really embarrassing. And kind of am here for that. But again, sorry, Francis. But I think it's Juve or nothing for me right now. I want to see that +1 before I'm involved. And even then, I feel like the pressure is on Juve more than, I mean, there is some pressure on PSG because they want to win their group, because that's going to severely impair their chance to win the Champions League if they don't. I guess I'll circle to the other matchup and then potentially come back. Maccabi Haifa getting 3/4 as well. Both underdogs getting 3/4 from the favorites. Almost all the juice on Benfica. So maybe this one's going to trend towards that full goal. But I think Juve are honestly more likely because PSG is a stronger team and Juve are dealing with so many injuries. For this matchup, I think Maccabi Haifa might have a better chance to move on. I mean, it sucks the tiebreaker if they both lose and Juve go through, so that's probably not. And who knows like what level Maccabi Haifa are on. But that makes me think that Benfica are going to be out for blood to win this matchup, but I don't really see them as being that aggressive and like forsaking their defense in pursuit of their offense. The draw's not good enough, though. They have nothing to worry about. They're moving on. So I would expect they'll probably throw caution to the wind, and that makes me want to back Maccabi Haifa less. Also makes me want to back the under even less. Maccabi Haifa probably are sitting in trying to get a goalless draw here. Hope that Juve lose and they can move on to the Europa League. but I don't know. I don't know a lot about Maccabi Haifa, so that's gonna be tough to say. Juve, on the other hand, at +1, I think I'm a little more interested, but even then, that probably tells me that they don't have a very good lineup playing. So I don't know if there's a lot for me to do there either. Unfortunately, Wednesday seems to be a little bit tougher to find anything because a lot of those groups have already been decided. But just to recap, Shakhtar Donetsk getting 3/4 of a goal, hosting Leipzig, or quote unquote hosting in Polonia or Poland. Like Shakhtar Donetsk for sure. I like Red Bull Salzburg getting that 1 goal on the road at Milan. I skipped Celtic for a reason. I like Zagreb getting a goal and a half. But I don't like a team that needs a result going to a really tough place to play and on the road at a really good team who could smash them. Unfortunately, not really interested in Copenhagen or Sevilla, and then the Juve and Maccabi Haifa, just not so much. So for the best bet for Wednesday, we're gonna go with Shakhtar Donetsk getting 3/4 from RB Leipzig. I do like a situation where Shakhtar get through. Same type of scenario where a draw means a lot of Leipzig people are celebrating, but Shakhtar Donetsk cover and take that whole stake and the risk and everything back to you. So best bets for Champions League on this episode, match day 6, the last run from Luigi, Northern Italian Luigi. I Bruges +1 on that list for sure. From Tuesday, and from Wednesday, Shakhtar Donetsk getting 3/4 of a goal. I'm gonna go because I just don't really believe in the Leverkusen crowd. I'm gonna go. My best bet for this episode will be Football Club Bruges +1 at Bayer Leverkusen. You can follow me on Twitter, @the_real_G Warner. Feel free to slide in some DMs if that's what you're into, or throw any questions you got my way. Love it. Give me some compliments on the costume. Tell me that my mustache looks way better than the beard, and maybe I stick with that, even if you'd believe it. Not sure. But if you could leave me a 5-star review on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, subscribe to the YouTube channel, wherever you're watching it. If you let me know, tell me where you want me to be. I'm happy to go other places. This might be the limit of my technical capabilities at this moment. But hopefully you're following along, getting some winners, as I know Champions League has been very good to us so far. So we'll be back, or I'll be back on Wednesday night, most likely, for a Thursday Europa Conference League onslaught of matches, and going to do a little bit more acutely tuned, as people like that last episode a little bit more, skipping the teams I don't know a lot about. So thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. Got any tips, feedback, let me know. Referral code below if you want to sign up at Bet Online, get some cash to go win some more money from them. Anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Whatever you're doing, hit me up if you got some thoughts. It was fun, and I'll see you soon.